You got this, PB. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to our Monday night book club discussion of A Happier Life with our beloved Kristy Woodson Harvey.
I
We've
know.
been
Can you
so,
not wait? Can you not wait?
I have been so excited about this because we love Kristy so much. And we feel like we haven't seen her in a while, so we just can't wait to give her a big virtual hug and welcome her. And we know you guys feel the same way because we've been getting all the love and the pictures and the chatter and the questions. So I'm going to be quiet, but well, quickly. I'm Lisa, and I'm here with my co host Brenda for all the newbies joining us tonight.
Yes. And thank you, Lisa. We're so excited. We see you in the coming into the chat. So we're very excited to see you and where you're from. And I get the honor of introducing our guest tonight, and that is Kristy Woodson Harvey. She's the New York Times, USA Today, and Publishers Weekly best-selling author of 11 novels, including tonight's topic, A Happier Life, The Summer of Songbirds, and the Peachtree Bluff series. Many of her books have been optioned or are in development for television and film and have received numerous accolades, including Good Morning America's Buzz Pick, Southern Living's most anticipated reads, Katie Couric's featured books, and Joanna Garcia Swisher's The Happy Place read. Kristy is the winner of the Lucy Bramlett Patterson Award for Excellence in Creative Writing and a finalist for the Southern Book Prize. A Phi Beta Kappa, summa cum laude graduate of UNC Chapel Hill, her writing has appeared in numerous publications. She lives on the North Carolina coast with her husband, son, and dog Salt, who we may be discussing later, where she's
Yay!
always working on her next novel. Welcome, Kristy. Let's
Yay!
see.
She's
Hi,
such a
I was
Yay.
rock
like,
star.
it's not going fast enough. Sorry, I couldn't get my camera on. Good to see y'all. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm so happy to be here.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm at my parents' house tonight. This is my dad's office, and here you can't see all
Well,
the
it's
books.
very
Well,
nice.
there's a whole row down behind here too. And I think the first time that I ever was live from here, Anissa was like, "Oh my God, he has a shrine to you." So now I think about that every time I walk in. I'm like, "Here's the shrine." This was not set up for the Zoom. I just wanted y'all to know that this is always
That is
here.
too funny.
The whole I can't
Well,
swivel the right way, but the bottom row is all Kristy Woodson Harvey books too.
it looks super cool.
It does. It does look super cool. And we are so excited to have you tonight and to be able to talk about this amazing book, A Happier Life, with spoilers
Yeah.
after 7:15. I
Woohoo!
have
I
to
cannot
say,
wait.
I have to say, Kristy, this story is just so special, and I'm not sure, I couldn't really pin it down. It's the dual timeline, but just back to 1976, which for some of us, uh,
Not that long
we
ago.
remember we
Oh,
remember that pretty well.
I
And
wasn't
just
born yet.
okay, Lisa, I'm muting you.
Why did PB&J break up? Well, we all watched it live here.
It was a dual timeline dispute, but it's just the most. It's also a really intimate look at your home at Beaufort, and not to mention the completely coincidental appearance of an adorable little boy and a cuddled pup, Salt. So we'll get into questions from readers in a moment, but Kristy, in the meantime, could you give a summary for those who are watching up until spoilers who haven't read it yet?
Yes.
Remember, spoilers are okay after 7:15, and we'll give a warning. And please put your questions for Kristy in the chat as she's doing the summary.
Awesome. Okay, so A Happier Life is a story about a woman named Keaton who knows that her grandparents passed away in a tragic accident before she was born. But what she does not know is that her uncle and her mother have never sold their childhood home in Beaufort, North Carolina. And considering that her grandparents passed away like over 40 years ago, more than 40 years ago, she thinks this is kind of bananas that they have never sold this house. And so for a variety of reasons, she decides that she will agree to be the person to go back to Beaufort, clean this house out, put it on the market, and sort of band-aid this painful part of her family's history. Like, how hard can it be, right? Not a big deal. But when she walks in, she basically is met with a time capsule of the night that they passed away. And virtually no one has been inside the house since that night, including her mom and her uncle. And so as she starts kind of wading through the detritus of her grandparents' lives, and she starts meeting all of these townspeople who want to kind of not only welcome her, but also sort of tell her, what she needs to be doing, because that's very important, I think. Then she starts to realize that maybe the stories that she's been told about her grandparents aren't completely true. And then the other point of view, we get to hear from her grandmother, Rebecca St. James, who died in August of 1976. And we watch Bex's love story with her husband Townsend unfold from the 1930s until that fateful night when we find out from Bex's point of view what exactly happened to Rebecca and Townsend St. James. So that's that. Oh, and
Love
I was going to tell you
it.
too. Sorry, I was just going to tell everybody really quick. If you're out there and you haven't listened yet, go check me out on Instagram at Kristy W. Harvey. Simon and Schuster Audio is doing a giveaway today of an audiobook, but it's also like this fun summer whole package. There's like a
Yeah.
towel and a beach bag and a cup and all these things. So go enter. It's a great giveaway.
Yes, it is a great giveaway. I'm glad you brought that up because we were going to ask you about that later. So that's
Sorry.
good because I was looking at it. I was like, "Ooh, that's a great giveaway."
Yeah, it's a great one.
That's
You guys go
awesome.
enter.
And again, we'll get into some more questions in a moment. But we did want to ask you, Kristy, we know you've been on a whirlwind tour for A Happier Life and you've met lots of Friends in Fiction Book Club members. So tell us, what were some of the highlights of your tour so far?
Oh gosh, it has been so great, just like top to bottom. I will say it was really cool because I usually am in Salisbury where I am tonight. I'm here usually my first week of tour, but I actually did like the big launch there this year at a historic home, which, this book takes place in a historic home. And so to be able to have this like really fun, like lawn party, I actually got to speak from like the second floor balcony of the house, which was really neat. But I don't think
Cool.
I've ever spoken in Salisbury before, so that was really fun because it is where I grew up, so it was lots of familiar faces, and that was a lot of fun. I will tell you, this was, I think, the most oddly and coolly coincidental thing that happened. So this book is really centered around the Old Homes Tour in Beaufort, which is a real thing. It's a real event, and thousands of people come in from all over the place to go, to this Old Homes Tour. And it sort of connects Bex and Keaton through these two time periods. And it takes place the last full week of June every year. Well, my books come out all different times, but they set my pub day for June 25th, just totally randomly, which happened to be Old Homes Tour in Beaufort. So I did get to do like a big launch in Beaufort as well, which was really cool because obviously that's where the book is set. And I'm hoping I've done some we have a double decker bus. It's like an old British bus that we do bus tours of the town, several times a day. I say we, I do not participate in them, but I'm on the board of BHA. So I guess that's why I say we, but I do not do the tours, but sometimes I do. I've done a bunch of Peachtree Bluff tours around town, and I'm really hoping to do some Happier Life tours. We just haven't done them yet, but I mean, every single stop along the way was so incredible. I think I went to like 10 or 11 states and just met so many readers. Of course, there are always more places that you want to go, right? Like, I always want to go more places, but we did an incredible Friends in Fiction event in St. Louis, and it was just hundreds of readers and so many Friends in Fiction members that were, that we hadn't met before because we hadn't necessarily spent as much time in that part of the country. I could go on and on, but it was fantastic. And I think I added up that I had met like almost 2,500 readers on tour, which is kind of incredible to think about, literally like signing
Yes.
books for 2,500 bodies that, mostly your connection with is online. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it was a great, great tour. And I mean, every stop was better than the next. And there were a
Oh,
couple
that's
places I'd
amazing.
never been before. I'd never been to Lexington, Kentucky. I'd never been to St. Louis. I'm trying to think. There were like a few other places on tour that I'd never been. But anyway, it was fantastic all around. Just loved it.
That's awesome. Um, I have a question from the chat that I'd like to ask from Jennifer.
Okay.
She says, Do you have a favorite insight into your book that someone on your book tour told you? For example, at the event she was at, someone mentioned The Wizard of Oz.
That was genius. Oh my gosh. Okay. So Jennifer, bless you for saying that because that needed to remember something. Yes. So I do have to tell you all that because this was crazy. So Hank Philippi Ryan was in conversation with me for 2 events in Massachusetts, which I'd never done an event in Massachusetts before. Which was so fun. So this event that Jennifer's talking about, I believe the one that Jennifer's talking about was at an Unlikely Story, or it might have been at the Abbott Public Library, but I'm like 90% sure it was Unlikely Story where she said that. And um, so Hank is just, she's an amazing author, but she's also an incredible reporter. So to be in conversation with her is just amazing because she's just so like insightful. And she said, it occurred to me when I was reading this book that it's a lot like The Wizard of Oz. And I was like, really? And she said, yeah, a woman goes out on a journey with her little dog and discovers there's no place like home. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. It's just like The Wizard of Oz.
New marketing
I
angle.
love
Right?
that.
I mean, I was like, that's so cute. It's really great. Um, Gosh, oh, I wish I could think of something else because there's so many things. I say this all the time that like when I go out on tour or when I start doing interviews for a book, people will say things to me and they're so insightful. And I think, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that, or I didn't even necessarily recognize that that's what I was doing, or, that was like something that it always is interesting to me how things resonate. I will say actually, that same event, someone came up to me and said, just asked me about like my childhood and how I was raised and if it was like if it was like Keaton was. And I was like, no, definitely not. Like I had, very doting parents. My mom was at everything. Like my dad was at everything. Mom made lunch every day till I was, 25. I mean, I'm kidding, but like I did not, like she was laughing at me today because I was scolding little Will for forgetting to pack something. And she was like, I packed you for your honeymoon. Like, I think you need to back off a little bit. That was definitely not me. But it was interesting to me because she said that she had had a mother a lot like Keaton's grandmother. So someone who was a much more hands-off parent and really needed her children to be independent and kind of do everything for themselves. And she said that she really resonated with that character and she felt like she parented her children in that same way because she had had a traumatic loss of her mother as a small child. And I was so happy to hear that because, of course, that was something that I imagined, right? Like I thought about how would losing your mother when you were not at a time in your life when you were prepared for that affect the way that you become a mother. And I thought, this was maybe one possible scenario. So to hear someone say that to me, that resonated with them and they had had a similar experience and it really felt real it was kind of like a smaller part of the story, but I really was happy because, you are kind of trying on different people's lives and you hope you get it right. And so that's always really nice when something like that resonates with someone.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really awesome. And we want to kind of put a pin in that and come back to part of that
Yeah.
comment in a little bit. But I wanted to ask a quick question. We have a book club member coming on in a moment to ask a question.
Oh, yay.
But I was wanting to ask if you Debbie in an advanced question wanted to know could you explain or parallel the true story of the closed up home that your family member had with what you created as fiction in A Happier Life?
Yes, absolutely. So when I was a little girl, there was a house across the street from us that, it wasn't across the street from us. We moved to a new house and our old neighbors ended up buying the house across the street. So we were neighbors again. But there had been a huge fight among these family members at Thanksgiving, almost 50 years earlier. And no one ever went back to the house. So of course there were certain, it's in a neighborhood, so you have to keep it up to certain standards on the exterior, but it literally had not been entered. I mean, it wasn't like in this story where like someone had cleaned occasionally or like things had been fixed or had been like kind of kept up. This one, no one had walked inside it at all. So anything that had been done had only been done to the exterior of the house. And so I was one of the first people to walk in that house after it had been closed up for 50 years. And, we went in to tour the house because my mom, it was like her best friend. And so they were, going to go look at the house and I wanted to go too. And when I walked in, we'd heard all these crazy stories that you just think couldn't possibly be true until we walked in and you look over to the right and the dining room is right there and it was still set for Thanksgiving. Like the turkey was still on the table. It was like petrified, like wood. I mean, it had been there.
Wow.
You would think it would be disintegrated. It wasn't.
Yeah, it's kind of worrisome.
Right.
I
I know,
know.
right? It's kind of gross. So, yeah, although maybe it's good and maybe it meant there were not like animals living in the house. I mean, I guess that's a good thing. But there were like, newspapers out on the couch and shoes and like toys out in the kids' rooms. I mean, it was literally like I'm living in my house today and I walked out and no one ever came back in for 50 years. And it was just
Wow.
like a total time capsule. And I look back now and I think, wow, like the things I could have uncovered in that house, as a writer today now to be able to like go in and go through all their things and their letters and their like personal artifacts and figure out, who these people were and piece their lives back together. And so that's similar to what Keaton walks into, but I honestly had to tone it down a little bit because in my first draft, both my agent and my editor were like, this is not believable. And I was like, no, but it's true. It happened. I lived it. And they were like, yeah, it might be true, but it's not believable. And those two things are not the
Wow.
same. Truth is really stranger than fiction sometimes. And
That's hilarious.
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Sometimes you can't make it up.
You can't make it up.
Truth
That's
is
right.
stranger than fiction. I mean, we all know it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we have joining us tonight to pop in for a question for Kristy is Lisette.
Oh,
Yay. And we do want to point out it's after 7:15, so spoilers are here.
Biscuit.
Oh, Biscuit and Lisette.
Hi, Biscuit.
Yay.
Hi, Lisette. Sorry, I think I might have said hi to Biscuit first, but Biscuit wasn't looking at me.
That's okay. Biscuit is eager to get this hat off of her. I apologize. I sound horrible. We were celebrating someone's 18th birthday, hence the hat, all weekend
Yay.
outside. And I forgot that I don't actually do well outside. So that's why I sound like this. So apologies. I hope you can hear me okay.
Well, Biscuit
Yeah, we
and
can.
Lisette
Perfect.
came to book events on drastically disparate pieces of the country. So that was very impressive. Thank you for that. So I got to see them a couple of times.
Absolutely. So keeping on theme, I want to talk about salt today.
Perfect.
Of course. I think many of us know that you adopted a pup in the last few years and named him Salt. And not only have you become the ultimate dog mom, taking him, I think, even boating, for example, but you one-upped all of us other dog moms by including Salt in your book. Can you talk about not just including a dog, but your actual dog, name and all, and if we can expect to see more of him in future books, like a Salt multiverse?
Really good idea. There should be a Salt multiverse because he really deserves it. So I will just have to tell everybody, I wrote an article about this for Parade when the book came out that you can, check out if anyone wants to know more. But I did not want a dog. I did not think I liked dogs. I did not want one in my house. I was like, it's going to smell and it's going to shed and it's going to lick and like all these things that I did not want. And so my husband and son finally wore me down, basically. I mean, my son was 10 and he's an only child. And my husband just basically guilted me. Like, I grew up with 2 dogs all the time and boys need dogs. And not that girls don't need dogs, but this was the argument. So finally I was like, fine. And there was this puppy that needed a home and that he knew somebody he knew. And anyway, I was like, fine, but this is y'all's dog. I'm not going to clean up after this dog. I'm not going to train this dog. I'm not going to walk this dog. This is y'all's dog. Like, and then of course,
famous last words.
Salt comes in and he is my unexpected soulmate. I had no idea how amazing having a dog was going to be. So anyway, I love this dog like ridiculously. I mean, he is like, he's everywhere I am, Salt is. So
You're his person.
I know. Yeah, but he's not here with me tonight because my husband's at home and he was like, you can't leave me home alone without even the dog. So we left Salt with him. But so he has definitely kind of become, this great love that I did not know I was missing. And so now I'm the person who, I mean, truly, my three best friends from home were with me last week, and Salt was so spoiled because he slept in everyone's bed, like rotating, and everyone fed him everything off their plate. But when my husband texted a picture of me with Salt, like when he was a puppy the night we got him, and my friend's first two responses were, "It's the apocalypse and hell has frozen over," because like this is how much of a so now I love the dog so much that I wrote a book about him. But Salt, I thought having a dog in the book was like a really fun dimension just in general. And I also think because Keaton is, she's sort of this fish out of water in this new town, and she's on her own for a portion of this story. I wanted her to have a buddy. I wanted her to have a little companion to talk to and to, walk through town. And a lot of the great things in the book that happen because Salt is, the impetus for them. Either it's his bad behavior or the fact that he needs to be walked, or him barking at things that no one else can see. Like, is the house haunted? But it was a lot of fun to write about him, and I mean, I'm sure we'll see him in a future book.
Oh, yay.
Yay.
Look forward to it. And maybe a best friend named Biscuit,
Maybe Biscuit.
Maybe.
Yes.
I was going to say that there is a dog in the whole Peachtree Bluff series named Biscuit.
Yay.
So I must
There
have
you
just
go.
already known. Yeah.
Already
Biscuit's like
happened.
our book club mascot.
Kind
We
of our
all
mascot.
love Biscuit.
Yes. Biscuit.
And we
the
love
lady.
Lisette too.
We love Lisette.
Biscuit's
Yeah.
mom's pretty
Thanks.
awesome
I love
too.
being the two.
Two.
And thank you both for
Thanks,
joining us
everyone.
tonight. Thanks so
Thanks,
much,
Lisette.
Lisette.
Thanks,
Take
Biscuit.
care.
Happy
Bye.
birthday, Biscuit.
Happy
18th.
18th.
Biscuit's legal
Biscuit
now.
is old enough to vote.
Right.
I know, right?
That's
Well,
awesome.
Kristy, I'm so glad that you started talking about Keaton, because that was my first question. I have to start with Keaton because she sets this whole crazy adventure in motion when she goes down to Beaufort to clean out the home. But the reason she's willing to, I can't imagine a much more awkward business situation or love situation than what she gets herself into. So I'm going to ask you, but I'm also going to ask our readers, what were your thoughts about this crazy situation with her ex? And I'm wondering, was it fun to create that wild backstory?
Yes. Okay, and since we're talking spoilers, I mean, and it happens at the beginning of the
Yeah.
book anyway. But Keaton basically goes in for what she thinks is going to be a promotion meeting. And it could have been, but finds out that her ex and her boss, who used to be married, but then she dated this man, they have gotten back together and are having a baby. And she's not thrilled about it because the timeline would have been while they were dating, even though they're broken up now. So yes, it was very fun. And actually, Little Will was listening to this book with me in the car yesterday, and he was laughing so hard. And I was like, okay, this is good. He thinks it's funny, but
Oh, that's great.
I wanted it to be a little bit comical. Like, I wanted it to be a situation where, like, yes, she is changing her life, but it's like a little bit funny. And I actually have had some really fun comments and meetings with people who have worked for companies sort of similar to All Welcome, with these kind of figureheads where, we sort of project on them this like god or goddess type status. And in reality, like, they're just normal like us, and they're probably not exactly what they seem. So it was a lot of fun to write that. And I really liked the idea of, I hope I'm not like jumping ahead, but I liked the idea at the end of Keaton. I think it's realistic that sometimes we don't always just like move on and start a new life. Like, I like the idea that she does have this little like, peek back into this company that she helped build, because it gets her to a place that she really wants to be. And I thought that was like a fun part of her character, and smart of her to think, okay, this wasn't a great situation, but I built this. This is my baby. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to use it to get what I want. And so I liked that about her. I was kind of proud of her for that. I've got a lot of comments about that too, which made me happy, because I was like, maybe it's simpler if like she just goes to Beaufort and she starts Rebecca St. James and that's it, but I liked the idea of her kind of getting something from Allison in return for the pain and suffering she put her through.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was great.
she should have been talking a lot of smack about them, but anyway.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah.
I know I was when I did the audio. I was doing audio and book, and I was listening, and I was like, "What? No!" I was like, "How is she? That does not work." I'm like, "Okay, I need to rewind this." I think we've all had some situations, either cheating or someone who's gone through something crazy like that. So it's definitely relatable in some way.
Well, and she's not, her nose isn't totally clean either, right? Because she probably should
True.
have dated her boss's ex, I mean, her boss's ex.
Yeah,
So
not the
I
best
think,
idea.
y'all know I like the shades of gray, and I was kind of like, well,
Hmm.
maybe not. But I also think there's a lot of like, people can be more than one thing. And I think Keaton
Yeah.
kind of recognizes that. Like, maybe
Yeah.
Allison wasn't 100% the person that she like built her up to be. But then she has this realization that like, she created this person and it wasn't really real, but she had a huge hand in doing it. So it's sort of like, okay, well, we're kind of all complicit in this, and where do we go from here? So I don't know. It's like that love hate. You can love someone and hate them at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Speaking of,
Um, yeah. No. Well, I have an advanced question from our beloved Ron Block, who you guys may know from our happy hours, an amazing podcast host. And his question is, happier life is so full of love in all its variations. What has formed your appreciation and ideals of love?
What a good question. Thank you for that. I have to say too that Ron sent me he was one of the very first people to read this book, and it's a very scary moment when like a book is coming out and it's happening. And he wrote me the most like glowing, wonderful email,
Oh,
like right after he read it, which was so sweet of him, and it just made me feel so much better about it. I was like, okay, if Ron likes it, it's gonna be okay.
and he's
Um,
watching. So, hi, Ron. We love you.
Thank you for that. That's so awesome. So that's such a good question. I think a lot of things. I do think Bex and Townsend in particular. There was an inspiration, which I do write about a little bit in the afterword of the book. But my great aunt and uncle passed away in a plane crash before I was born, and I kind of was imagining, maybe like a little bit of maybe not a happier ending, but just a more like an ending that was a little more like controlled, I guess, for them in this book. And that really was the inspiration for this. But I just love the idea of, I don't think we celebrate it quite as much as I think it's really fun to write the like early stages of love, which of course, I did get to do with Keaton's story. And I love writing about that. But I also think there's something really special about this kind of forever type love that I think we all sort of aspire to, but it might be really hard to find. And I definitely think that a lot of Bex and Townsend, there was a lot of my grandparents in them for sure. And I mean, I have, amazing parents who have been married for, how long have y'all been married? 43
they're
years.
sitting watching you.
My mom's right behind me.
Hi,
So
Mom.
43 years, and who have just been like a really good example of just, 43 years of
Oh,
still really liking each other, which I think is really amazing. So I did have really good examples of that growing up. And I mean, my dad's parents as well. I didn't know them as well. They passed away when I was younger, but they were, together their whole lives from the time they were very young, and just all had these kind of like really special love stories. And sort of that mentality of like, this is what we're doing, and we kind of go down with the ship. And so I loved the idea of that, and wanted to sort of celebrate that a little bit, and as well as the like early stage of the new butterflies and all of that.
oh, that is just so
That.
wonderful.
Thanks, Ron.
So that Ron's question was outstanding, by the way. And speaking of Ron, what was your inspiration for the Captain Ron character? Do you have a lot of pirates running around Beaufort?
We do. We have a lot of pirates running around Beaufort. In fact, we laugh. Okay, because Greenville, North Carolina. I lived in Greenville for like a short period of time, but the college there is East Carolina, and their mascot is a pirate. And so you would see pirates running around all the time because at every game and every whatever, because that people would dress up as pirates. Well, in Beaufort, there's a lot of like Blackbeard lure. And I mean, we even have something called the Pirate Invasion, which I believe is actually this coming weekend. But people who are like, I don't know how else to say this, but they are like career pirates. And I mean, they don't like
Wow.
ships, but they like recreate the pirate lifestyle in their real life. And so they will come to Beaufort for Pirate Invasion, and like they set up like real tents in Beaufort Historic Site. I don't mean real tents like you went and bought at Dick's Sporting Goods. I mean like, the old timey, like the canvas with the bamboo, like what pirates would have actually used. And they make their own grog and drink it out of like, the big metal cups, and, have their bird and their, I mean, they really are like committed to this. Like it actually, I remember the first time we went and I was like, wow, like I can't imagine just being this into something like just for the heck of it. Like it's kind of inspirational to think about just being so passionate about something that you love it that much. Um, so there are a lot of pirates roaming around Beaufort, and they are authentic. They are not wearing a plastic eye patch from, the costume store. They are like, these are like real life, like recreations that you would see in like a theater.
Oh,
And so
like
yeah,
reenactors?
yeah, yeah. I mean, exactly. It's exactly right. They're like pirate reenactors, and we have cannons
Wow.
ready that kind of like go off and, at different occasions. And so there's like all these different things that happen. And anyway, but there are pirates roaming around there for sure. And so I was like, I have to that a little bit. And we laugh because we're like, we don't even notice them anymore. Like tourists have been like, oh my God, these people are dressed up like pirates. And I'm like, oh yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just Tuesday.
What do you mean? Like, yeah, it's like a normal Monday morning. Like they're getting their coffee like everybody else,
That is so funny.
So funny.
Barbara in the chat said, "Yep, pirates are big in Beaufort." So,
Pirates are big in Beaufort. Yeah. So we had to have a pirate in there. And there's a guy that does pirate tours around Beaufort, and he, dresses up in a very authentic garb and tells stories. And now are they true? They're true enough. They're true enough, kind of like in the book. True enough.
oh, that's so funny. That's awesome. I love that kind of stuff. So I have a question because we've had a couple of questions in the chat. I'm kind of mixing them together, but we've had
Okay.
quite a few comments about the dual timeline and how it's so seamless. So what did you do to get that 70s vibe?
Well, that
And
is
did you have any like help from, did you ask your parents for help on anything from that time?
yeah. So I feel like the 70s I mean, it was interesting to write about the 70s because it's a time period that I feel like I intellectually sort of know about, but I didn't live it. So, it was interesting to kind of balance those two things of like, okay, well, I think I know this about the 70s, but do I really? And I did do a lot of research for all of the things that were in the past. But the hilarious part was that it was really easy for me to do the research on like the 30s and 40s in Beaufort because there's this huge digitization project for North Carolina publications. And so they had started and they had digitized all the publications from like the 30s, 40s, and 50s. But by the time I got to the 70s, nothing was digitized yet. So I was actually like at the library, like on the microfilm, like trying to pull out, all the little canisters of film and like different days,
Oh,
that I'm
wow.
going to be talking about in the book. Because I wanted to know, what the stores would have been, what the restaurants would have been, what people would have been doing. So any event or anything like that I wrote about was something real that was happening like in the county during that time, which was kind of fun, like and even in the 30s and 40s. And so I do feel like I was able to sort of piece it together that way. But yes, I definitely had my mom and my aunts read my books first before anybody else. And so I was definitely like, okay, if I like, you gotta like put yourself in the 70s and like make sure I didn't make any mistakes. Now, of course, they wouldn't have known like precisely the accuracy of something that I had that was going on in Beaufort that day, but they would certainly have known like, yes, somebody would have been wearing that, or yes, somebody would have been playing that music, or those types of things.
Oh, you definitely nailed
Very
the
cool.
home decor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
that was really fun. And I have to tell you, I mean, that was another kind of, speaking of tour highlights, I did like a pre-launch dinner in Raleigh with Walter Magazine. And there's this incredible designer there named Patrick from this store called Greenfront. And he like recreated Bex and Townsend's living room in the City Club in Raleigh, like where we were having the event. And then did like Bex's
Oh,
dressing
wow.
room with all the like 70s decor. And it was really cool.
That's super cool. That's awesome.
It really is. That's amazing. That would be something to see.
That was cool.
Well, Kristy, you talked a little bit earlier in response to Ron's question about, the impact of love on this story. And I'm going to ask you a rambling question now,
Okay.
because it's so all interwoven. It may not even wind up being a question, but I'm going to take a stab at it.
You go,
There's
girl.
so many layers in the story, and I loved it so much. But you've got the backstory of Bex and Townsend falling in love, and they paid such a high price to be together because their family did not, basically cut them out. Then you have their choice. So that was their parents' choice. And then you have Bex and Townsend's choice of going out, in the plane the way they did. And it affected Lon and Virginia in ways that they didn't expect. And then you go to the next generation, and Keaton has been impacted by Virginia's behavior. So every choice they made had impacts on future generations. How did that all come together in your mind?
Well, I think a lot of it happens kind of organically, like as I'm telling the story. But I think the clincher for me in this was that Bex, just by her personality, which hopefully you can see and understand throughout the course of this book, that she really feels like it's her responsibility to take care of everyone else. And she feels like this ending is going to be the way to do that. And she and Townsend, obviously, I mean, they talk about it in the plane, like, oh, Virginia will know immediately what happened. But of course, Virginia doesn't know what happened because she never goes back to the house. And so I think that while I wanted it to be a little bit of a decision that they make together, but that's giving them some agency over their ending, I think it also has these, like you said, these really far-reaching consequences that they were not expecting. But I also think that, in the end, it kind of all comes full circle, and that everybody does sort of start to understand, what happened to them, and how this accident made them who they are, for better or worse. And I mean, Keaton might not have gotten the exact mother that sometimes she thought she wanted, but being raised in the way that she was made her who she was in such an impactful way that I think it would have been hard for her to go back and say, well, I wish my mom would have known, and then maybe she would have raised me differently, and then but she would have been a totally different person. And but I do think it was a little bit of a look at like how even the most well-intended choices have far-reaching consequences that we can't quite understand. And I actually started this book in a very different way. When I started writing it, you went into the story knowing that Bex and Townsend had died. And really more of the purpose of the story was you knew they had died in a plane crash, but you were watching the ripple effect of these consequences throughout the generations. Because I was very nervous to see, I was very nervous to tackle that element of the more mysterious element of how did they die. I wasn't sure that I could really pull that off in the story. And so I thought, well, we're just gonna know what happened to them, and then we're gonna see, the effect on everybody else. But then after the first draft, I thought probably be more interesting if we didn't exactly know what happened to them, and this uncovering process would probably be a little bit more impactful. So I think the seeds of that were planted really early on in my head, but a lot of it I don't know until I'm writing, and I'm kind of feeling my way through it and thinking, what would happen now and what would happen next. And it's surprisingly, I mean, I changed some things here and there. I took out a lot because this was a much longer book when I actually finished it. So I took out a lot, but most of the order and things like that are pretty much the same as when I started the book. So it really did kind of come together in a pretty organic way.
Oh, it's so amazing, because the whole time I'm reading this really intricate, interwoven story, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
I guess a lot of people would say, how is she going to land this plane? And then I'm like, oh yeah.
Literally. How are you literally going to land the plane?
Yeah, or you're not going to land the plane. But it totally came through. That whole generational,
Mm,
impact came through, and it's so Keaton would have been totally different
yeah.
had Virginia known, and clearly Bex thinks she's going to know right away because she left the clues, but not.
Yep.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you for tolerating my rambling
That was a great
No,
question.
question. That was a great
that was a
question.
great
You
question.
nailed it.
I
You
want
really
to,
landed the plane on that one, Brenda.
yeah, you did. Um, Meg is watching and she says, you did a great job. I love the mystery element of this book.
Thank you, Meg. That's so
I
nice.
did too. And there's so many comments of love in the chat. I can't read all of them, but everyone just talks about how much they love the book, they love the mystery, they love everything about it. Like it's so good. And then there's a little chat about how the 70s is considered historical fiction. I don't think I'm ready for that either. But
Yeah, no, and I've had some talks about that with people like on in interviews, like is it or is it not? And I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. And the only thing I will
yeah,
say is like, I mean, while it's probably I feel weird calling the 70s historical fiction, but
yeah,
you do. I think even if you lived in the 70s, it's kind of like, there are plenty of things that I have to go back and look at and be like something that happened in the 90s. And I was there and I lived it, but I still, you don't remember it completely accurately. And so I think that is
right.
interesting too, is that even people that lived it would probably have to go back and like do a little bit of research, like what year did that happen or what time was that or all of those types of things.
Yeah,
So yeah, it is interesting to like piece together even I mean even the early 2000s, I mean even things that certainly wouldn't be
yeah,
historical by any stretch of the imagination, like you are sort of going back and researching. So it's really interesting to do that, like, recent history type of research.
yeah.
You're
Well,
familiar with it, but
it's kind of like, I mean, what's the timeline to define it as historical? Because I was reading something recently and they tried to say the 90s was historical fiction. And I was like, I feel personally attacked. Like, no way. Like, that's not that long ago. But it is.
Yeah, that's
It's,
how it
to
feels,
see
Lisa.
what's, yeah, it's like, how do you,
that was like 5
decipher?
years ago. So how could that
I
possibly
know,
be
right? I'm like, what? So, yeah, it's hard to kind of define what's considered historical.
I know. It's really interesting. It's
It's
interesting.
interesting. And then I do want to read a comment from Debbie. She said that this book is the love story of 2024.
Oh,
Oh.
Debbie.
I know, so sweet.
Debbie's the best. Appreciate
Yeah. Brenda, do you have another question or do you want me to ask the next one?
Well, I kind of would like to, since we were talking about Bex just a moment ago, I have to ask, I want to read Bex's Guide to Entertaining. So you're gonna have to come up with one pretty
crank that out. Mhm.
Like a
pretty quickly.
little novella.
I know that would
Yeah.
be really fun, actually. We actually toyed around with the idea of calling it Rebecca St. James's Guide to Entertaining, but then ended up not doing that just because I was like, oh, I don't want it to sound like it's a nonfiction book. But yeah, I loved writing those little tips and writing all those things from her, and those were definitely mostly things that could have at some point probably come out of my grandmother's mouth.
I don't doubt it at all. My goodness. I just loved it so much. I felt like it was a true, real, thing,
Thank you.
document.
I know. I wish it was. Wouldn't that be great? I would love to have something like that. Somebody actually sent me
You
an
know what? You're a
Instagram.
writer. You could do that.
I could make that up. I know. Someone sent me an Instagram post the other day of these women that were talking about um like entertaining things they got from their grandmothers, and one of them was talking about how her grandmother kept a notebook about her dinner parties and all of her like party plans and the music she played and the guests she invited and the menu she served. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's Rebecca St. James's Guide to Entertaining for real. It's very cool.
Oh, that was after you wrote it. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. Isn't
That's
that neat?
awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. Well, you never know. Maybe you could
You never know.
do a little guide.
Be
And
fun.
we did have someone in the chat who wanted to know, because of that, kind of going along the lines of the guide, do you host a lot of dinner parties yourself?
So I've had to let people know, unfortunately, I'm not Rebecca St. James. I do love to entertain, but I am not whipping out these summer suppers like she is. Although it is my mom's birthday coming up and we are going to have a great dinner party. So hopefully it will be very Rebecca St. James-ish. I'll take some pictures. But
Oh, yay.
but I do love to have parties, but I'm not I think that was something that that was one of those things that someone actually said to me later that I didn't really realize I was doing or maybe like working through. But I love the idea of all these traditions and like family traditions and Southern traditions and all the things that, the way my grandmother entertained and all of those types of things. And I don't want them to go by the wayside, but then like, I also don't really want to do them either. It's so much work. I mean, it's amazing the things that they would do just for like, their 4 friends at Bridge Club or whatever, and all the, crystals being hand washed and the homemade chicken salad. And it's great and it's amazing, but I'm just kind of like, I don't know that I'm really at that place in my life where I can do that. So maybe one day. But I do love to have parties, but I am not hand washing the dishes after. So dishwasher all day.
That's
for me.
funny.
I'm right
Well,
there
I
with
wanted
you.
I know I'm right there with you too. And the other funny thing, before I know Lisa has a question she wants to ask about Bowen, but um I share Bex's birthday. So it was very surreal, reading the whole birthday unfolding on that date.
Oh my goodness, that is
Yeah.
so strange, Brenda. I did not know that. Oh,
I,
sorry.
I thought about that too when I was reading it.
Did
I was
you
like, oh,
realize
that's Brenda's birthday. Yeah, yeah. I was like, oh, that's Brenda's
That is
birthday.
weird because I know sometimes, like when I wrote The Wedding Veil, there was a huge flood in Asheville on my birthday. I mean, it wasn't like it was a different year, but all of these things that were unfolded on my birthday, and I kept thinking every time I would read it, I would be like, oh, that's so weird. It's weird. Sorry, Brenda.
that's okay?
So I'm going to ask this question, and I want you guys to chime in the chat, because, as the single lady of the group, I love a good book boyfriend. And I think Bowen is a pretty good book boyfriend. So, can you tell us what it was like writing Bowen, or did you have inspiration for his character? And then for those of you in the chat, let us know if Bowen has moved to the top of your book boyfriend list.
So it's kind of funny because the first scene that I wrote in this book is the one where Keaton comes into the house and she thinks it could be haunted, and she turns around and Anderson's standing behind her, like very still. And she's like, is he real? Is he not real? What do we do? And so I actually wrote like a decent amount of Anderson before Bowen even really entered the picture. And because I'm not a plotter and I don't really know what's going to happen, I mean, obviously I know I like to have a love interest in a story. So I figured Keaton was going to have a love interest. But when I started writing him, and when Bowen came and was kind of like accusatorily like, you're kidnapping my child, and she's like, I am just like living my life over here. I didn't actually really even know that he was going to be her love interest, or I thought, maybe he's one of them, but she's
Wow.
someone else. It wasn't like I immediately was like, well, that's her person. But it was really fun to write that. And I don't think I've ever really written I mean, I wouldn't call them like full on enemies to lovers, but they definitely have like a rocky start. And I don't think I've ever really written that before. So that was kind of fun for her to, and he's very stoic and kind of different than the other people that maybe Keaton has been associated with in the past. And I certainly don't think she thinks she's going to move to this town of 4,000 people and fall in love. So, but of course she must. So, so he was really fun. He was a really fun character to get to write. And, I don't know. I think when I wrote that first dinner that they have and they're like eating wings and she's drinking champagne and then they're having the pizza and he says, "Well, you said champagne and everything." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, he's gonna be her guy."
Yeah, I definitely loved that too. I was like, oh,
Well,
okay, Bo.
and I like the idea of like sometimes I feel like I feel like someone like Keaton and the phase she is in her life, if she hadn't known Bowen and she'd been like, oh gosh, like he has a son and like I don't know. And I sort of liked the idea of like she really falls in love with Anderson first. I mean, you know, Bowen's like the accessory that she gets, like for being best
Yeah.
friends with Anderson, you know, the 10-year-old boy across the street.
He's so cute too. I loved his character.
Me too.
I was gonna
We have
say I was on board as soon as you know started with developing Anderson's personality. I was like, oh yeah, he needs to be a part of her life.
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure, for sure. And I love the idea of that relationship forming so seamlessly for them. I mean, so it wasn't like, oh, it's my dad's girlfriend and like, do I like her? Or like Keaton being like, oh, do
Yeah.
I want a bonus son? Like none of that happens because they just love each other first.
I love that. We have some comments. Michelle says Bowen is definitely the ultimate book boyfriend. And Marlene says he could be, but don't tell Matthew McConaughey because we all know that's
Yeah,
Marlene's boy.
don't tell Matthew
We
McConaughey.
won't tell Matthew.
Don't tell him. Thank you. That'll be ours.
He says Bowen is definitely relationship worthy. And yep, it looks like over everyone's saying that he's a good
He's a thumbs up,
boyfriend.
yay!
He's a
He's a
thumbs up.
thumbs up.
That's
But Claire says she still might hold out for Coffee Kyle. I mean,
yeah.
anyone that delivers coffee to me is a keeper.
Yeah.
So
I get that. I mean, Coffee Kyle is a hard book boyfriend to beat. So I don't
yeah,
blame her for that. I don't blame her. It's
yeah, I subscribe to that. I get that. I get that, Claire.
there we get that.
Well,
Um,
oh, did you have another one, Lisa?
I was just gonna ask if she could tell us anything about what she's working on next.
Oh, yes, I can. In fact, I just started my next book, so I almost told you about the wrong thing.
Ooh,
Yeah.
a
So,
super exclusive.
I know. So my next book is I think it's going to be called Beach House Rules, but I'm not positive, so don't
Nice.
hang your hat on that. And I don't have a pub date yet. I don't get my pub date till September, so it's driving me crazy, but it'll be next summer. And so anyway, I'm very excited about it. But I've got to figure out how to talk about this so I can like be a little more interesting when I talk about it. But it is about a woman named Charlotte whose husband is accused of a financial crime. And so she literally comes back to her house one day and there's caution tape around it. She can't get in her house. Her accounts have been frozen. And basically her entire life is just kind of like up in the air in an instant. And she has a daughter in school. She has nowhere to go. She's a fairly new resident of this town called Juniper Shores, where this book is set. It's a fictional coastal town in North Carolina. And she has nowhere to go. And so, fortunately, she runs into a kind of acquaintance that she knows slightly, but not even very well. And this woman knows about her situation and is the owner of a house that was previously run as a bed and breakfast. And her niece lives with her children, and one of her friends lives with her children. And she invites Charlotte and Iris to come stay with them, at least temporarily, while this mess is being sorted out. So Alice, who is the woman that owns this former bed and breakfast, has three dead husbands that a lot of people in town think she potentially could have killed. So Alice is a very interesting character because she has a really deep backstory and a lot of secrets of her own. So we get to hear from Charlotte, we get to hear from Alice, we get to hear from Iris, who is Charlotte's 15-year-old daughter and is suddenly thrust into this very bizarre situation with a bunch of small bonus sisters that she never wanted, and the high school heartthrob that she has the biggest crush on ever and is now living under
Oh,
the roof as. Um, But there is a social media account that runs through this story called Juniper Shores Socialite that is commenting on everyone in this house and all of their goings on and all the goings on in the town. It's not just them specifically, but everyone in the town. And so you get a feeling right away of what people are saying about these women and how they feel about this very unconventional lifestyle in which they are living. But the women under this roof all have something in common that they don't know about. And throughout the course of this story,
Ooh.
they figure it out. And not only does it end up, changing their lives in pretty big ways, but it also allows them to find out the truth about Charlotte's husband and that entire situation. So it was so fun to write. And it's lots of moms, lots of kids, basically living together under one roof, which I thought was a really cool idea. It was in the media a lot last summer when I got the idea for this book. There were all these articles about these mommunes that were popping up, and for various reasons, but mostly because, these women would find themselves as single parents. And not only is it really hard to raise kids by yourself, but it's also really expensive. And so, there were a lot of reasons for these women coming together, but I kept reading about it and it kept kind of coming up in my path and I never even thought about it. And I went home and I was going to start this new series that I've had this idea for forever. And I sat down to start writing and it was like, I sat down on my computer and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to write a book about a commune. And there we go.
And
So
there
it
you
wasn't
go.
what I was planning on writing about at all, but it was so fun. It's really a book about found family and female friendship and all those things I love, you guys.
It sounds so,
Snarky
so,
small
so
town
good.
rumors. Everybody has a secret. It's all the things that I love.
It sounds
Oh,
so
can't
good.
wait.
Another Kristy Woodson Harvey hit. Speaking of hits, if I don't ask this, I think our members will be upset. So, is there any chance we'll get another Peachtree Bluff?
You know what? I hope so. I'm in conversations about that right now. So we'll see. I'm hoping that
Ooh.
maybe one way or another, we're going to get another one. So cross your fingers.
Yay! We're here for it.
Yeah.
Had to slide that one in.
Yeah. So I wish I had like a really firm answer for you, but
Hey, you left the door open. That's good enough.
Mhm.
I
So
hope
you're saying there's a chance.
that's right. That's right.
I cannot believe it, but this hour has flown. We still have a couple more minutes, but this hour has flown by. I would love to have another whole hour because this
I know
book
it
had
always
just
goes
so.
way too fast. Oh my gosh, we do. Okay, well,
I
before we go,
know.
I know I told you guys backstage, but I have to congratulate you on your amazing award. I'm so proud of you guys.
Oh,
That was so
thank you.
exciting and so awesome. And I know you have to be so proud. So thank you for all the hard work that you put in. And it was a well-deserved honor. And I'm so glad that you got it. And not
Oh,
surprised.
thank
Oh,
you.
Not surprised.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yes, thank you for all your love and support from day one.
You guys are the
We
best.
couldn't do it without you.
Ditto.
So
Yeah, never ask for
Ditto.
something at Friends in Fiction. You get a 4-year-long commitment that just keeps going and going.
Well, we can't let you leave without finding out if someone wants to get a copy or another copy of A Happier Life. Where can they get a signed copy?
So right now, probably the best place, there are 2 stores, one in Beaufort and one in Morehead City that I go by and personalize frequently. One is called Beaufort Linen Company in Beaufort, North Carolina, and one is DG's Gifts and Books in Morehead City. I'm just remembering that I had one I was supposed to go personalize before I left town, and I did not. So great, good for me.
see.
So when you
Nice
call to
little
order
reminder.
yours out there, I'll try to be a little more organized. Sorry about that.
And can you also remind? Oh, I got an echo. I'm sorry. Remind everyone about the giveaway with the Simon and Schuster audio on Instagram.
Yes. So if you guys go on Instagram, I'm at Kristy W. Harvey on Instagram. If you don't follow me yet, please do. I would love it. There's so much fun stuff going on over there. But Simon and Schuster Audio is actually giving away an audiobook for you to share with a friend, which is really fun. But then there's also like a fun summer package over there. So it's like a beach bag and a fun cup and a really nice beach towel, like some really cool stuff. So go check it out. Enter to win. It's pretty easy. I think you just like tag a friend or something.
Yay. Go intern. Win. Hopefully one of our friends
I
in
know. Hopefully
fiction
one of our members will win.
family will win.
Amazing.
Christy, we love you so much and we
I
miss you.
know.
And I'm so glad that you were able to
I know. I've
join
got to
us
write more
tonight.
books so I can be your pick more.
Yeah. Or you gotta come hang out with us for happy. We gotta get you on for a happy hour
Oh
too
yeah, that'd be
for the
awesome.
fun and book wreck.
Yeah.
But it's just so
And
great to spend time with you. We miss you and love you. So
We love
thank you so
we love
much
you
for
guys.
taking the
Thank you
time
so
tonight.
much. This is so fun. It's always so fun. I always look forward to this, and I appreciate all your time and hard work. And I'm so grateful to everybody out there who listened and came tonight and has read the book. And y'all are amazing. It's so nice.
oh,
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
so much, Christy. I know we could spend another hour, but thank you so much for your time tonight. We had a blast.
Me too. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, I
I
just
know I
love
could have
her.
listened another whole hour at least.
I know. It really is like I feel like whenever we have one of the Fab Four on, like we're always friends
Hmm.
in fiction. We always love the authors. But when I feel like when we're talking to one of the Fab Four, it truly is like friends and fiction. Like we're because we know them more and we've
Right.
working with them over the last 4 years and I just it's always so fun and we always look forward to it. And what a oh God, I loved this book so much.
I know, me too. I mean, just the whole, I thought about the book a lot,
Mm,
during it and kind of wondering how the characters were doing when I wasn't reading it.
yeah.
And that's that's something.
That's a tip of the hat to the writer extraordinaire that is Kristy Woodson Harvey. I wish I had just a little bit of that sparkle in my own writing because she's definitely got it. It's just so good. Yeah, she's great. Um, I guess we have some other announcements. I don't know. I'm still on. St oh, speaking of 4 years, on Thursday. You can come back and get a double dose of PB&J this week because that's what everybody wants. We are having happy hour Thursday night with Ron Block, where we will also do a little fourth anniversary celebration during our happy hour. I can't believe it's been 4 years.
I know,
Crazy.
I can't believe it either.
And
Oh,
we are going to have a surprise guest that Ron does not know who it is. And we
and we
will
do love that,
announce.
right?
We love that. It's so fun. And it's also a guest that everyone's going to love. So we're excited for that. And we're going to announce our October, November, and December picks to round out our year for book club discussions and give you the date of our next happy hour with Ron Block. So make sure you come on Thursday night. There may be some surprises. There may be a giveaway. You never know what we're gonna do, but we definitely will have cocktails, mocktails, PB&J, and Ron Block. So come on by Thursday night, live right here on the book club page at 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
That's right. And don't forget,
Mhm.
our September book club pick is What You Leave Behind with Wanda Morris. We're really
Yay!
excited about that one too. Can't wait for
So
that.
excited. So excited. I love Wanda so much. Her
I
books
do
are
too.
amazing. So it's going to be a great book club discussion.
So definitely join us September 16th.
Yep.
Oh,
And
and Lisa, yeah, I was gonna say,
you
don't we have
say it.
another? I think we have another announcement, and that is we have some merch. We
Yay!
are we have kicked off our I'm trying to share my screen, that's why I'm looking so crazy.
Oh no, you look fine. We have our
Uh
official book club t-shirts. The link is live and it's on the page. And you can order the shirts now through August 28th. And so many of you have ordered them already. So thank you for that. This is the official shirt, but the awesome thing about it is there's so many options. You can get the V-neck t-shirt, the regular short sleeve t-shirt. There's a long sleeve t-shirt. There's a sweatshirt. There's a hoodie. And you can pick which color you want. We even have a purple t-shirt. So you
And
guys
that has turned
can,
out.
yeah, it's popular.
Now, if you want the official shirt, this is the V-neck in the turquoise color.
Yeah,
But
I
there are
love
lots
it.
of choices.
I've ordered two, and I have a feeling I'm gonna probably order more. I got a long sleeve blue one and the V-neck turquoise, and I'm like, I kind of want either a sweatshirt or a hoodie, but I'm so hot natured. I'm like, oh, but I'm like, yeah, I'm probably gonna order a couple more before run is over.
Yeah, I definitely am. I'm gonna have to go with something long sleeved as well as the official one.
Yeah. I also want to point out that speaking of merch, we still do have our Friends in Fiction Book Club stickers and the Friends in Fiction um, Book Club tote bags available at literary.creations.com I'm sorry, literary.creationsbyjenny.com if you want to look at those as part of the merch. It's a separate website from the t-shirt, but there are still stickers and tote bags available there as well. So you can always check that out. And if you're on her site, if you use our code Lisa Gets Lit, you'll get 10% off. So happy shopping there as well.
That's right. We've had a great evening with Kristy and a happier life. Been such a
Yeah.
fun evening. Thanks everybody for joining in, and for Lizette and Biscuit for coming in to visit
Yes.
tonight.
Happy 18th birthday, Biscuit.
To Biscuit.
I know.
So that's all for tonight.
That's
Hope
all
y'all
for
have a great
tonight.
week and happy reading. And
Thank you for joining us. Make sure you can follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and on Instagram at Friends in Fiction Book Club, and Brenda by the Book, and Lisa Gets Lit. So we'll see you Thursday night for happy hour. PB and J out.
bye-bye.